This is the story of how a 12-year-old boy would come to shoot his grandparents in their sleep for spanking him with a paddle. The cold, calculated planning that went into his cover-up, his arrest, and ultimately, his sentencing. Christoper Pittman is scheduled to be released from prison in 2023. So will he come out a better person? Or will he be just as unstable as before he went in? Christoper Pittman's father was at his wit's end. Not only had his son run away twice, but he was also threatening suicide with a knife. Running out of options, he had his son committed to an inpatient facility and put on Paxil, an SSRI antidepressant. When released, Christoper was sent to live with his grandparents at Chester, South Carolina. He went to school and began attending church regularly with his grandparents. When it came time for his prescription to be refilled, however, things would begin deteriorating rapidly. His physician didn't have Paxil, and so switched him to a different antidepressant called Zoloft instantly. While they are both SSRIs, they are different drugs, and switching them so quickly was a bad idea. He started getting serious side effects and intense pain, which, instead of trying a different antidepressant, the doctor simply gave him pain medication for. He was also becoming far more irritable on the new drugs, which all came to a head on November of 2001 when he choked a second-grade student on the bus. Later, when going to choir practice, he kicked over a chair and was reprimanded by the church musician. His grandfather talked to him outside, and when the musician saw the boy next, she saw nothing but rage in his eyes. When they returned home, Christoper was sent to his room and told that if he came out of his room, he would be spanked with a paddle. He did leave, and true to his grandfather's word, he was spanked. He then waited 10 minutes after his grandparents went to bed, loaded a .410 shotgun, and killed both of them in their beds. He then set it up so candles would burn the house down after he left. He took some money, the gun, the keys to the SUV, and his dog, then drove away. He was found the next day by some local firefighters who were out hunting. He was still holding the shotgun when he told the men that a black man killed his parents, lit his house on fire, and kidnapped him. He claimed he was able to escape after the man got the SUV stuck in the woods. According to his story, the man shot at him and angrily threw away the keys. The men took Christoper to the Corinth Fire Department and called the police. The wild goose chase for the phantom black man began, and Deputy Lucinda McKellar arrived to talk to Christoper. She took his witness statement, and Christoper repeated his story to the deputy. They spent 4 hours together, playing cards, talking, and eating. The deputy had successfully befriended young Christoper. The police were also conducting an investigation of the crime scene, and at some point in the afternoon, McKellar received word that Christoper was a possible suspect based on the evidence they were collecting, and he was taken to the police station at about 3 p.m. McKellar took Christoper to a conference room, sat him down, and told him they needed to have an adult conversation. The suspect had his Miranda rights read to him, and another officer arrived to play bad cop. McKellar began her interrogation of the suspect. When McKellar asked the suspect about a Bible verse he had mentioned earlier, Bad Cop asked him what his grandparents would think about his lack of truthfulness. It was then that he confessed to everything. McKellar wrote the statement, and the suspect signed it. This 12-year-old boy signed away his rights about 18 hours after he killed his grandparents. He didn't have legal counsel at the time, or even an interested adult to advise him. Even still, the confession would hold up in court at the trial, and after his confession, the police arrested Christoper for double homicide and arson. The prosecution was able to convince the judge of the family court to waive its jurisdiction, and after a war of pre-trial motions on both sides and a series of delays, the trial was finally held 4 years later, from January 31st, 2005 to February 15th, 2005. The jury convicted him of both counts of murder after it was decided that his actions were taken with knowledge of their immorality and that the antidepressants were insufficient to remove his responsibility for his actions. He insisted throughout that his grandparents had it coming, and his story was consistent up until he confessed, showing the extent to which he had thought through his attempts to get away with it. The trial judge sentenced him to 2 concurrent terms of 30 years imprisonment, the minimum sentence possible under the sentencing guidelines. After more legal battles and failed motions, he eventually got a new trial due to ineffective counsel at the time of confessing, and he took a plea bargain for a single 25-year sentence, including the time served from his previous sentence. He is expected to be released on the 22nd of February, 2023, and is imprisoned in the Allendale Correctional Institution. It is hard to tell if Christoper was simply a troubled kid under the influence of bad medication or a heartless killer. Without going back in time, there really is no way of knowing if he would have still killed his grandparents had he stuck to the original medication. One thing is clear, however, this wasn't an act of uncontrollable violence he felt bad about afterward. He waited 10 minutes after they went to bed to kill them, set the house up to burn after he had left, gathered supplies, and thought of a story that he felt people would likely believe in order to do everything he could to get away with it.